started with our January 8th, 2019 special meeting, which I will now call to order. To start off, let us all rise. Pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to roll call. Ted Jermaine.
Present.
Thomas Sinkowitz. Don Cavella.
Here.
David Sars. Scott Charwood. Here. Scott Gardner.
Here.
Gary Stallone.
Here.
And Vice Chairman Travis Irons is excused. He is unable to make it to the meeting. And for the record, Scott Gardner, you do have voting rights for this meeting. Next up, acceptance of the minutes from the December 19th, 2018 minutes. The minutes have been distributed to the members. Any question or discussion?
I move we accept.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the minutes, and I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the December 19th, 2018 minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain, please.
One abstention. Okay, motion carries to accept the minutes from the December 19th, 2018 meeting. Next item, under new business, to discuss and accept the fiscal year 2018 audit report. So I will, at this time, like to turn it over to our auditor to certainly cover any bullet points we'd like to present.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much. My name is Mike Van Dieven. I'm a partner on the Holdings table, and I was ultimately responsible for issuing the reports on behalf of the firm. Many of you probably knew Jennifer Hawkins. She was previously served as the engagement partner. She did leave the firm back at the end of November to take the position as the finance director for the town of Kilman. So she did supervise the majority of the audit. I also have Heather Seaton here. Heather served as the supervisor on the audit, and she's been here from a continuity perspective, which made the audit go very well. So in any event, you should have in front of you two reports. You'll have the town's financial statements as well as the federal and state single audit reports. I will not be going through those reports in detail. We'll go through my presentation. I'll provide some overall highlights that I think will be important for you as board members to know. And certainly as we go along, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. All right. So if we can jump into slide 2. In terms of the scope of work, we did perform an audit of the town's financial statements, and we performed that audit in accordance with both the auditing standards issued by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, as well as the government auditing standards issued by the Government Accountability Office. In addition, based on the level of funding that was received and expended by the town, we also performed federal and state single audits. We performed the federal single audit in accordance with the Uniform Administrative Requirements and the state single audit in accordance with the State Single Audit Act. In addition, we also performed agreed upon procedures on the end of school year reports for the Board of Education, and those procedures are required by the State of Connecticut Department of Education. So no change in terms of the overall scope of work from what's been performed in prior years. This next slide goes over our reports. The main report that we issue is the report on the financial statements. We did issue unmodified clean opinions on your financial statements. Our opinion does cover multiple statements within your financial statements. For the town, it covers your governmental activities, your business type activities, which is your Water Pollution Control Authority, each of your major funds, which is your general fund, as well as the PCA fund. And then we also provide an opinion on what we call consider the aggregate remaining fund information. And that includes all of your special revenue funds, your capital projects, your pension trust, your private purposes trust, and your agency funds. All right. Just an important thing to note in terms of our opinion, we do provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from a material misstatement, whether due to error or fraud, and that they've been prepared in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. Any questions as far as the overall report on the financial statements? That is the opinion that you would want to see as a board. The next report that we issue is a report on compliance and on internal control of the financial reporting. It's important to note that we don't actually express an opinion on your compliance with laws or regulations or on the effectiveness of your internal controls. To the extent we identify material noncompliance with the law or regulation or material weakness or significant deficiency in your internal controls, we're required to include it in this letter. Okay? So we did not report any material noncompliance of laws and regulations. We also did not report any material weaknesses over your internal controls over financial reporting. We did report a significant deficiency in internal control over financial reporting, and that relates to the reconciliation between the town and the school district. That finding is outlined in page 7 of the federal and state single audit report. At the end of the day, in fact, what I'll do is if you can just turn to page 7, I'll just kind of walk you through.
Are these public copies right here?
And if we could actually skip to page 8. And so we did note some reconciliation issues between the amounts that were reported within the town's accounting system and that of the school district's accounting system. In addition, we noted that the June 2018 bank reconciliation to the school district's operating account contained an error, which resulted in an unreconcilable difference in cash. So the effect of that was an unreconcilable difference in cash of approximately $266,000, which exists in the school district's bank reconciliation and the amount that's recorded within the town's accounting system. Right now, that amount is recorded as a liability, and so we didn't have enough information to propose an audit adjustment for that amount. So what I'd like to see is for the Board of Ed and the town to look into that unreconcilable difference. It's either one of two things. It's either some reconciling items that haven't been identified, or it's a potential additional revenue to the town. So again, it's not something that could result in a negative impact on the overall town's financial statements. And so that is why it was okay giving the opinion on the financial statements without this being addressed at this point in time. We are requiring a corrective action form be prepared, and so that will need to get updated and provided to the Office of Policy Management. I don't think it's a significant issue. My recommendation is that there's a little bit more of a robust reconciliation process between the town and the Board of Ed on a monthly basis so that any unreconciled items can be identified and addressed in a more timely manner. Okay. Any questions as far as that finding goes? Yes.
Does that mean there are two different accounting systems, one used by the school department and one used by the town?
Correct. And that's not
And what we're trying to do is reconcile that to be one accounting system?
correct.
Thank you.
Correct. Yep, the primary issue is that they don't have an integrated accounting system. So some towns have moved towards where both the town and the Board of Education are on the same accounting system, and that is integrated. So that, in an ideal world, would be your fix. But it's not necessary. So you can continue operating on two separate systems. I'm just looking at it as adding some additional components to the reconciliation process to eliminate any inconsistencies going forward.
School board being autonomous, can they come to our system, or do they have to stay with what they got?
That would have to be worked out between the boards.
Okay, that's nothing to do with state,
No.
okay.
Correct. All right. And again, that was really the only issue that we ran into from an audit perspective. On this next slide, in terms of the federal single audit, we do issue a report on compliance and on internal control at the federal award level. Here we are actually expressing an opinion on your compliance with the grant requirements associated with your major programs. Your total federal awards expended were about $1.7 million. Your major programs was the Special Education Grant Cluster and then the Title I grant. We did issue unmodified clean opinions on your compliance over those programs, and we did not identify any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. So a clean report in terms of your federal awards. We issue a similar report in connection with the state single audit. Your total fiscal year 2018 state financial assistance was about $15.6 million. The majority of that is considered exempt from our testing. So the portion that was not was about $1.1 million. Your major programs were the Town Aid Road Grant, your Municipal Grants and Aid, and your School Readiness Grant. Again, based on our work, we did provide unmodified clean opinions on compliance over those programs. We did not identify any deficiencies in your internal control of those programs. So again, another clean report in terms of the state single audit. Before I move on to the financial highlights, any other questions in terms of the overall reporting? The next couple of slides, really I'm just kind of providing some overall financial highlights. There's a lot of information included in the financial statements. I certainly recommend you as board members to go through those statements and ask questions of management. On the first slide, covering your general fund budgetary highlights. Again, your original budget contemplated the use of fund balance in the amount of $192,000, and that was for revaluation and capital purposes. Your final budget did contemplate an additional use of fund balance in the amount of about $1 million as a result of the reductions to state aid that was identified after the original budget was adopted. Your actual change in fund balance was an increase of $503,000, so that did result in a favorable budgetary variance of about $1.6 million. Your revenues were approximately $738,000 more than budgeted, really driven by your favorable property tax collections. And then your expenditures were approximately $956,000 less than budgeted, and that was really due to favorable budgetary results across all departments. And again, we did not identify any instances of budgetary non-compliance in connection with our test work. This next slide goes over your governmental funds. So this includes your general fund on a GAAP basis, as well as all of your non-major special revenue and capital project funds. Your combined ending fund balances totaled about $11.1 million, which was an increase of about $541,000 from the prior year. Your total fund balances consisted of about $9.7 in your general fund, which was an increase of about $500,000 from the prior year. 8.3% of that is considered unassigned, and that represents approximately 17.6% or 2.1 months of your fiscal year 2019 budgetary expenditure appropriations. So I think that's certainly a reasonable fund balance percentage. The GFOA provides recommendations to governments that all governments should have at least 2 months of reserves on hand. So you're right around that 2-month reserve. In addition, your other funds had about $1.4 million in fund balance, which was an increase of $41,000. You had about $495,000 in your special revenue funds that are committed and restricted for specific purposes, and then about $932,000 in your capital project funds. And again, from an audit perspective, one of the things we look at is, do you have any fund balance deficits, and you do not have any funds with deficit fund balances as of year-end. This next slide goes over your government-wide financial highlights. And your government-wide financial statements is really your governmental funds financial statements converted to a full accrual basis of accounting. So we include capital assets as well as any of the related debt used to acquire those assets, and then also any pension and other post-employment benefits liabilities. The first bullet here, just a quick highlight in terms of the business type activities. The WPCA did report a positive unrestricted net position of about $1.4 million. It does have current working capital of approximately $1.1 million, so no issues there in terms of their financial position. In terms of the governmental activities, we did have to restate your beginning net position for two things. The main one being a decrease in your net position of about $3.1 million for the implementation of GASB statement number 75, which is accounting and financial reporting for post-employment benefits other than pensions. So we did anticipate that restatement, that adjustment was a result of implementing the new accounting standard. In addition to that, we also included a restatement to increase your net position by about $1.6 million to record the amount of escrow that's being held by each for your self-insurance. Again, for whatever reason, that hasn't been included in your financial statements in the past. When I was going through reviewing this year, I noted that that should be picked up in your government-wide financial statements. So no impact on your general fund or your governmental funds. One of my recommendations that I did speak with Kelly about is that we include internal service funds in your financial statements in future years, which will actually show the activity within your eChip escrow account. Okay, but for now, we picked it up as part of your government-wide financial statements. All right. The town's overall net position was a deficit of about $2.3 million, and that is really driven by your liabilities for pension and other post-employment benefits. I do have a couple bullets on those on the next slide. In terms of your town pension plan, we do currently have a net pension liability of about $3.8 million as of year end. That is 85.4% funded. Again, anything above 80% is considered to be a well-funded plan. And that funding percentage is based on a discount rate of about 7%. We do look at the discount rates to make sure that they are reasonable, and a 7% discount rate is deemed to be reasonable. And again, you did have about 8.25% return on your plan investments. In terms of your other post-employment benefits, again, you were required to implement the new accounting standard this year. That reflects retiree health care benefits for eligible employees. Your net OPEB liability totaled about $8.7 million as of year end. That is about 5% funded. I believe we just established the trust. So it's not expected to be a well-funded plan at this point. The important thing is that you have established a trust, and you're starting to fund that cost going forward. And again, your overall other post-employment benefit trust fund had a return on their investments of about 6%. I do have a bullet in here on the state teachers retirement system. The net pension liability and the net OPEB liability that is attributed to the Board of Education's eligible employees totals about $49.3 million and $12.7 million respectively. Again, those liabilities are carried by the state of Connecticut. You do disclose those amounts in your financial statements. I do just, in communicating that to you, there's been a lot of discussions at the state level about trying to push some of those costs down to municipalities. You can see in the terms of the town of Plainfield, that is a significant liability that the town is, or that the state is currently carrying on their books. And again, these liabilities are currently being calculated at an 8% discount rate, which again is probably a little bit too high. So those liabilities are probably significantly more than what we're reporting here. I know that's a lot of information. Again, I tried to just pick out stuff that I think would be important to you as a board. Certainly, if you have any questions after going through the financial statements, I'd be happy to answer those at any point in time. So this next slide, just to conclude, includes our required communications. Again, these communications are required by our auditing standards. The first bullet here talks about our responsibility under our auditing standards. Again, although we do assist in the preparation of the financial statements, all the information included in the financial statements did come from management. It's our responsibility to perform our audit procedures and express an opinion on the financial statements. In terms of plan scope and timing of the audit, again, there was no changes in the overall scope. We did experience some delays, again, partially due to some of the reconciliation issues between the town and the school district, And then we also had some delays in the state releasing the necessary auditor's report on a net OPEB liability that needed to get included in your financial statements. We were able to meet the statutory reporting deadline of December 31st. I know we typically present to you guys in December, so I do appreciate you holding a special meeting to go over the audit results. In terms of significant audit findings, we do look at your accounting policies and practices. Again, the things to note here, you were required to implement a new accounting standard that did result in adjustment to your beginning net position, and you will see some additional disclosures related to your other post-employment benefits in the financial statements. And again, I did include here that I would recommend that the town report your self-insurance activities administered by eChip as internal service funds. And again, I think that's an easy fix going forward. In terms of difficulties encountered in performing the audit, we are required to inform you of any difficulties. We had none other than, again, the reconciliation issues between the town and the school district, for which we have reported a significant deficiency in internal control. In terms of uncorrected misstatements, I do have to include in here the potential for the overstatement of accounts payable in the general fund in the approximate amount of $266,000. Again, that is not a firm number. It could not be an adjustment at all, so that's something that ultimately will need to be looked into and resolved. We had no disagreements with management during the course of performing the audit. We did obtain a management representation letter. There were no unique representations that were included that we're required to inform you of, and we were not aware of any consultations with any other independent accountants. Again, if we were, we would have to communicate that to you. And that ultimately concludes our communication with respect to the town's audit. I'd be happy again to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Certainly very helpful for us in reviewing those bullet points. And I know we will definitely be doing a follow-up, certainly on the unreconciled difference in the cash amounting to that $266,000. I know I've actually talked to our superintendent as far as the accounting practices in place, and basically looking forward to see is there anything that we could do to try to, obviously, as a corrective action and a preventative measure to prevent this from happening in the future. But we appreciate you going into detail certainly about it and answering any questions we have. Are there any questions or discussion from any other members of the board?
You said we had 80% was a good figure for the pension fund. Who's saying that? Is that our actuaries that say that?
That says it's 85% funded?
That's 80%. I thought you said 80.
Yeah,
We are 85.
85%.
But did you not say that 80 was adequate?
Oh, that's just the guidance that's issued by the DOL, Department of Labor, on
Okay.
pension plans. Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
So with the fund balances we can use, we're not overly high, but we're in that neighborhood where we should be.
You are at the recommended level by the GFOA.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I would just like, again, to extend if the board does have any questions, whether it's throughout the year, again, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer any questions at that time.
Great, thank you. All right, so if there's no other questions or comments, is there a motion to accept?
I'm not sure we accept that before we get a chance to read this.
Yeah, well, because, you know, how it's written.
Yeah, just this report, I reviewed you guys. Is what I gave you. The email. those are the two reports. This is a summary of the two. This is a summary of these two.
Right.
So just so you know.
Okay, is there any motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the year-ending 2018 audit report.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting fiscal year 2018 audit report signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, next item, citizens' participation. One thing I just want to note is that if there is any citizen participation, remember this is a special meeting pertaining solely to the fiscal year 2018 audit, so any questions or comments have to be specifically to what was discussed regarding the audit this evening. I will open up the floor. No citizens' participation? Wow. All right, hearing no citizens' participation, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.